The food you eat determines the amount of sugar that's in your blood. Diabetes is diagnosed when you have too much sugar in your blood. There are 11.6% of Americans, which is like 40 million people, who've been diagnosed with diabetes. And Canada is keeping pace with you guys because we're at 9.6%. Since I know that nobody wants to have diabetes, how do we explain that 1 in 10 people actually have been diagnosed with diabetes? The simple answer is most people don't know that what they're eating is causing diabetes. That lack of information means that you could be eating what you truly believe is a healthy diet, but you're not. And Wellness Warrior, that could actually lead you to becoming a diabetic. In this video, I'm going to share with you the things that you really need to do to stay healthy. They're the things that I used to solve my metabolic problems, my inflammation and pain that I was living, and those 3 things helped me to lose 80 pounds. If you're new here, I'm Violet, and I'm happy to share my wins with you because I really do believe that you can do it too, if you have this information. The first point that I need to make absolutely crystal clear for you is that it's impossible to solve diabetes without managing your food. And there are only 2 ways that you can manage your food. The first one is to change what you're eating. And the second one is to take a medication to counteract the negative impact of the foods that you were eating. So yes, what I'm first, before I can tell you the 3 things, trying to get you to understand is that medications that we take for diabetes do not actually solve the health problem. What they do is they manage the sugar problem that your body is having. I don't want you to take my word for that though. I want you to talk to your doctor and I want you to ask your doctor, what action is the medication that you're taking doing within your body? Because what you're going to learn is it's either working on insulin, which is the hormone that tells our body what to do with sugar, or it's somehow impacting how your body is treating the sugar you've eaten. Diabetes is a condition that builds up in your body over time. It actually takes somewhere between 10 and 20 years for you to develop diabetes. But during that time, your blood sugar actually looks normal. It looks okay. That's because blood sugar is tightly regulated by the body. It has to be because high blood sugar is toxic and your body would not allow you to become toxic. The reason you become diabetic is because your body lost its ability to keep your sugar in the right place anymore. And during that climb towards diabetes, there are actually things that you might notice that are happening to you that would suggest that your body is moving in the wrong direction. So it suggests to you that your blood sugar is too high. Things like, maybe I'm really, really thirsty for all of a sudden, out of nowhere. Maybe I'm urinating more than usual, or so either more often or much more than I used to before. I could be extremely fatigued or ravenously hungry. Now, what's weird about those ones is that most of us might experience those things and not pay enough attention to it at the beginning. And then, of course, we get used to it. And this is just now the amount that I pee, right? But there are some more concerning symptoms that you can have, like blurry vision, weight loss when I'm not trying to lose weight, and things like recurrent infections or wounds that are really difficult to heal. And of course, if that doesn't get addressed, we could progress to really severe symptoms, right? So unfortunately, I have known people who are just not liking doctors, afraid of doctors. I'm not sure why they didn't go to their doctor, but then they get to this place where they're having stomach pains, their mental status, so they're like your ability to process changes, and even passing out and losing consciousness. Strokes or organ damage can happen if we don't get to the doctor in time and get these things addressed. Now, of course, organ damage, strokes, and these problems can happen while you're on diabetic medication as well. As a matter of fact, a lot of these things still happen even when we're taking diabetic medication. Part of the reason, and I'm pointing out to you, it's not actually curing the problem. This is why knowing what foods you're eating that are high in carb, high in sugar is so important. But for example, if you were to go to the American Diabetic Association website or Diabetes Canada, and take a look at the recipes that they have for you to check out, or take a look at the diet plans that they have for you to check out, to my surprise, there's still some high carbohydrate food, a lot of high carbohydrate foods, a lot of sweet tasting foods. And if you don't know my problem with sweet tasting foods, I'm going to link a video here to help you out with that one. Actually, it's in the description. These things are problematic because they're not helping us to actually solve the diabetic path that we're on. What I want you to understand, Wellness Warrior, is that your body has been trying to keep you healthy the entire time. That whole 20 years, it was working hard, which is why your glucose numbers looked as good as they did. And although your glucose levels are not even mentioned really to you until you cross 5.7, right? That's when you become pre-diabetic. Your doctor's going to say, hey, maybe look at this. Your body has been freaking out from the moment that your blood sugars were a little bit elevated. Because when you check someone's insulin levels, when they're registering something like 5.5, their insulin level is 4 times the amount that it's supposed to be. And by the way, when your blood sugar levels are at 5.7 and your doctor is just beginning to say to you, hey, maybe you want to look at what you're eating. Hey, maybe you want to like lose a little bit of weight because you're pre-diabetic and that could become a problem. Your body's been screaming that it's a problem because your insulin levels are now 6 times the amount that they were when your blood sugar was normal. And when you get that diabetic diagnosis at 6.5, your insulin is 8 times normal. So these small incremental 1 or 2 points, even 3 points, 5 points above 5 is increasing our insulin multiple fold. If we were actually looking at insulin levels instead of looking at carb numbers, we would have known there was a problem years prior. If you want to have more information about this data that I'm giving you right now, you can check out Dr. Ekberg's video. I linked it in the description. And I want to give you this analogy because I really want to hone in on why this is ridiculous for doctors to do. Imagine you live in a house all by yourself. Cleaning your house once a week is absolutely going to keep you in a good position. What would happen if you threw a party? Very likely, the very next day, you would need to clean up to get your house back in order to live the rest of your week. But what would happen if you threw a party every day for 20 years? When would you clean up? Now, obviously, that would be problematic. So let's say eventually the house is in so much chaos that you decide, I'm going to hire a cleaning company. And the cleaning company comes in, looks around and says, sure, we can do this. If we come every single day, it's going to take us about a year to clean this up. You have no choice. You must say yes. I've been eating carbage for years. They're offering me medication. I have no choice. I must say yes. No problem. Except I keep throwing parties. I keep eating carbage. Do you see the problem? What is going to happen? By not addressing the food, we just keep the problem moving forward, and we're putting a Band-Aid on this by the company trying to clean up. And then they leave, and the next night I have another party. And the worst part about this is it actually gets worse. It doesn't get better because they're in there and they're leaving their tools and they're cleaning products around, and then the party's happening. And so now we don't just have the food and the spills, but we have their stuff that's getting. Now that we know that taking medication does not solve diabetes, we need to now ask the question, what will truly solve it? And this is where we come to the 3 things that I need you to understand if you are going to get your health back, if you are going to live a happy life and enjoy yourself without pain, without weight gain, because when you start taking those medications, your weight does go up. This is the answer. First, the obvious true answer to diabetes, what foods are causing the problem, and then I remove those foods from my diet. The best way to do that is understanding that all plants have some level of carbohydrates in them. Carbohydrates, sugar, 2 words for the same stuff. And fruits, vegetables, grains, those are all plants. Potatoes, carrots, those are parts of plants. seeds and nuts, parts of plants. This is where the sugar in your diet is coming from. When it comes to food, another issue that we need to solve is that we think slow carbs are better than fast carbs because slow carbs get metabolized more slowly. And so therefore we see them as less harmful. What I want us to think about is the fact that a slow car will get us to the destination, just not as quickly as a fast car, but they're still both getting us there. Ultra processed foods have those simple sugars in them. So those fast acting, get me to diabetes faster, raise my blood sugar faster, force insulin to work faster, sugars in them. But these other foods have them. So vegetables, fruit have them as well. Nuts and seeds all still lead us towards insulin resistance because we're eating them in larger quantities than our body can manage. You need to keep in mind that back in the day, there would have been months on end where we would not have had access because we live in climates even till today, where we cannot grow these things year round. The only reason we have access is because we ship the stuff to ourselves. And that opens up a whole other can of worms that I'm not going to go into right now. But if you go back and watch my video with Sally Norton, you can understand why shipping fruits and vegetables around the world actually makes them even more toxic to us. I also know that I'm going to get a lot of people who are going to talk about the fact that even if we look at the societies that are eating a lot of rice and potatoes today, that they can eat them year round. And so there are a few spots in the world where they can eat them year round because that's what they have access to and they're okay. Why don't they have metabolic problems if it's the rice and potatoes that's the problem on my plate? And what I want to point out is the reason that they're eating rice and potatoes and they're not having pasta and sandwiches and all these other things that we're having is because they don't have access to ultra processed foods. Ultra processed foods are high in simple sugars. So they actually quickly get us to this place where our body can no longer manage the sugar that we're eating. They don't have insulin resistance, right? Their bodies are not pushing them towards the sugar that they eat, so the rice and potatoes, the way that our bodies are pushing us towards the chips and the candy and the ice cream and the cake that we're eating. They don't have that addictive relationship with sugar. We don't have the same situation, Wellness Warrior, and we need to pay attention to the current situation that we are actually living. The second thing that you need to do is take an action. An actual behavior needs to happen. Am I going to change the foods that I'm eating? If I don't change the foods that I'm eating, the only other option I have is waiting to take the medication. If you decide to do the food route, you need to do the food route before you start any kind of medication. Eating properly actually changes the way our body interacts with medication. So if I'm on something and I change the way that I'm eating, this medication can become extremely powerful and therefore toxic for my body. I can go from being too much sugar in the blood to having way too little sugar in the blood. That is dangerous too. So if you haven't started taking medication yet, my suggestion first and foremost is to remove ultra processed foods from your diet. I want to clarify, bread, pasta, crackers, and like these processed grains, those are all ultra processed foods that need to leave your diet. Also those snacks and frozen meals, none of those. We're getting rid of all the fake foods and we're trying our best to only live on healthy, whole foods. For some of you, this might actually be enough. Taking the ultra processed foods, the sodas and the sweet drinks and all that stuff out of your diet might absolutely be enough. And then you start to see that your health is improving, your weight is coming off, and you get to go on and live life and eat whole foods and be healthy for the rest of your life. However, for some of you, you're going to need to take the next step, which is taking all the sweet vegetables and fruits out of your diet, the starchy vegetables as well. And you're going to try to get yourself down to being 20 grams of carbs or less. So that's a keto diet. I have a video about starting keto that I'm linking below. The goal is to get your body to start using fat for fuel and to stop increasing insulin, because the more insulin increases, the more likely you're going to get to the point where the doctor says, well, now you need medication. We want our insulin levels back to normal. And a keto diet can do that for you. However, if that's not enough, the next step would be to take the veg out of your diet too. So the veg, the fruit, all vegetation out of your diet, the nuts, the seeds, all the things out of your diet. And now we're in the position where we're doing a carnivore diet. A carnivore diet means that you're eating meat, fish, poultry, eggs. Dairy is allowed on a carnivore diet as well. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of you that just got really excited. It's like, wait, are you telling me I don't have to pretend to like vegetables and put them on my plate and like put a few of them in my mouth to look good? I'm actually telling you that. We have been forcing ourselves, I know I was, to eat vegetables unnecessarily. You don't actually need to eat them. So if you're like me and you just don't like vegetables, don't eat them. Meat, poultry, fish, eggs, maybe some dairy. These meat-based dietary patterns have been reported by many, many people to have solved their diabetes and help them to be insulin sensitive again. And that way they've avoided medication. And the question now is, how will you know if you're successful with doing this? Of course, this is step number 3. We're going to be paying attention and verifying, am I actually improving my health? Markers that you can check. Did I lose weight if I had weight to lose? Did I improve my fatigue? And all those symptoms I talked about at the beginning, fatigue, dry mouth, drinking a lot, urinating a lot, all these things that were happening, if I was even getting dizzy or faint, all that stuff had those things improved. But we'll also add to that, you could check your blood sugar and verify in reality, I was 5.7 when the doctor tells me, hey, you're close to being diabetic here. Did I get down to 5 again without taking medication? Because if you've gotten down to 5 again without taking medication, that's a clear indication that you have improved. So buying a glucose meter and verifying is super important. I know that that's an added expense, something that you don't need to do right now, but wellness right, I want to point something out to you. You wait a year or 2, maybe 5, the doctor is going to put you on medication anyways, and you'll have to get the machine. I think it's better for you to get it now when you don't need it and use it to make sure you never need it, right? Make sure that I never need that medication than to wait for it to be part of your routine because it's the regimen that you're on, because you need to be making sure that you're not over medicating yourself. By investing in you, right? Because every one of these things that we're talking about here is you investing in you. You're going to see the result of removing ultra processed foods because you'll have your glucose meter and you'll be able to tell. You'll see the results of removing veg and fruits that are high in sweet and the grains and all that other stuff. And you'll be able to see, and rice, and you'll be able to see the results because you'll be checking. And if you do go all the way to carnivore, you will see the results because you'll be checking. Some small tweaks, Wellness Warrior, can allow you to be back to a healthy body, enjoying your life, and not worrying about taking medication. I know that it's worth it because I'm one of those people that did this. And I can tell you, I feel amazing because I love living life in my pain-free body. I love doing activities and not having to recover for days. I love the fact that I'm at my healthy weight. All of these things are amazing. But I most importantly love that I'm not on any medication and I didn't have any surgeries. And I can guarantee you, I am never going back to being in a painful body because of food. Not going to happen. Wellness Warrior, I make these videos because I want to be helpful to you. So I'm turning this over to you now. What was helpful in here and what needs more clarification? I want your feedback because the goal is for you to actually have better health. Let me know in the comments.